So this is probably the most famous mural in all of Belfast, all of Ireland. This garden's in remembrance to a lot of the volunteers that died or were murdered during the Troubles. My family's a Republican family. When I was a kid, my dad just been sentenced to a life sentence in Long Cache, and growing up, we were always taught that everyone's equal. We were on the receiving end, you know, we were the inferior race, so to speak. That's how the British saw us anyway. When somebody was giving a speech at the funeral and he started lobbing grenades and shooting into the crowd.
And then the next thing, pandemonium, a hand grenade went off, and then another hand grenade went off, and the day it happened, honestly, it was actually one of the worst days of my life.
So that's you on the left there?
Yeah, the good looking one.
It takes an enormous amount of propaganda to tell somebody that a homeowner is the bad guy and the guy breaking into the home and murdering his family is the good guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's absurd. Where we're going now, I wouldn't have walked up and you wouldn't have walked up with your accent, you know, 30 years ago. This is known as the Peace Wall. And this is the big barriers that divide the two communities. People try to revive the language up here. This is where Kneecap's from too, which kind of makes sense now. That's where the Sands lived. That's where Bobby Sands lived.
From the history that we learn in school, the Irish history, it's nearly like we're supposed to forget about the North.
Yes, yep,
like,
yeah.
Deliberately forget about
the
North.
And I would agree with that, yeah. A group called Project Children, they brought kids from both sides of the community over to spend a summer holiday in America, and it was the host families would take the kids. It started in the 70s where 6 kids come over, 3 Protestant kids, 3 Catholic kids, and they spent the summer together, and after being hesitant about each other, because from growing up here, after a week or so or a few days, they became best of friends. The first 2 people actually, a Protestant and a Catholic guy, they ended up being best men at each other's wedding. So the guy's a retired cop. He was the head of the bomb squad, funny enough, in New York City, the NYPD, Dennis Mulcahy. He done that the first summer, and then more people said, hey, I would like to do that. Just local people in Greenwood Lake, New York. And more people got involved, and then over the years, they'd go out and they'd do fundraising. They ended up bringing about 40,000 kids over. I was one of them. And it was a life changer. It showed you, I get to America, and you see big walls and barbed wire fences, and even get into the city centre in the town. There was turnstiles. You would get searched by the Brits, British Army. When I say Brits, I mean British Army. You get searched by the Brits and the RUC, and everything was divided. You were identified as a Catholic or a Protestant. I don't believe in religion, but still to this day, it's it's not as bad, but you still hear it. But I get to New York, and there's Jewish people, there's Muslim people, there's Asian people, black people, white people, European people from every walk of life, and you just sort of go to yourself, this is the way it's supposed to be, and it was an eye opener. And one of the things I will say is, growing up, we were always taught that everyone's equal. We were on the receiving end, we were the inferior race, so to speak. That's how the British saw us anyway. But we were always taught that even though we don't know what's on the other side of the fence, and we never go over there, we don't go past those barbed wire, the big gates, we were always taught that everyone's human, everyone's the same. And I think a lot of that helped with the peace process. It helped when one side was able to say, we've nothing really against them. We don't like their political beliefs and the fact that they occupy our land. We want Ireland to be free as one, and everyone on the island of Ireland to live as equals. We don't want to have the separation, the sort of supremacy and stuff like that. And
equality, yeah.
Yeah, equality. And you hear people saying, oh, this, that and the other, but our history shows it. I mean, some of our biggest leaders, Wolfe Tone, I saw you done a little video of Wolfe Tone.
Yeah.
He was a Protestant, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Roger Casement, which will drive by the stadium that's in bad shape, that hopefully gets fixed soon. But, a lot of the Irish rebels were Protestant. It was never about Protestant Catholics. That was how the Brits divided and conquered. They separate you and teach you to hate each other. And they've done it all over the world, but thankfully, it worked here for a while, but thankfully those days are gone, because nowadays, now that I've moved home from, I was in New York for 30 years, I notice it now, and it was a big, wow, this is brilliant. Even where I work, the kids, they don't care. They don't care about religion. They don't care where you're from. They're just friends, and that's the way it should be. Yeah. But I'll show you some more some more of the murals and we'll carry on.
Absolutely.
So this is probably the most famous mural in all of Belfast, all of Ireland. So this is Sebastopol Street. The minibus that used to go up the Long Keist, where families would be able to go up to see their loved ones who were locked up in British prisons. It used to run from here. The Sinn Féin shop's right there. But this mural of Bobby Sands, Bobby's parents were my next door neighbours. Lovely, lovely people. But Bobby was an Irish revolutionary. He was, I think it was around 76 where he was sentenced and sent to Long Keist. And when they were in there, the British decided to try and criminalise the IRA because they didn't want them to be known as freedom fighters and revolutionaries, because we were gaining support all over the world. Most decent people support people in their own homes that are fighting foreign invaders. So they tried to criminalise us, and they built the H blocks, and it was they tried to get the prisoners to wear prison uniforms, to do prison work, just like common criminals, and the prisoners refused. The first one, which you saw a mural of earlier, Kieran Nugent, he said, if you want me to wear that convict's uniform, you're going to have to kneel at my back. And he was handed a blanket, and that was the start of the blanket protest. But Bobby became, I think he became OC in, I think Darky Hughes stepped down in 1980 to go on the hunger strike, the first hunger strike. And Bobby took over as officer commanding the POWs in Long Keist. And then when the hunger strike they were promised to get what they wanted, but it turned out to be just lies and nonsense. It wasn't really what they were supposed to get. So in 1981, Bobby stepped down as OC of Long Keist, and Mick McFarlane took over, and Bobby went on hunger strike. But this time, the prisoners decided we're going to stretch it out. We don't want everyone to go on at once, because when everyone dies at once, it'll be over quickly. So they went on every few weeks, or whatever the length of time was that they decided. Another man would come on, and another man, and it went on for that long that 10 men died, and Bobby was the first one to die on hunger strike. And the hunger strikes was sort of the start, in my opinion. Again, I've been away for such a long time that people's opinions may differ, but in my opinion, Bobby was the start of the Republican movement edging into politics. Which kind of led to the ceasefire today, or the peace process today. He ran for MP while he was on hunger strike, and he was elected in an area that nobody thought an Irish Catholic could ever get elected in. And that was, to me, was sort of the start of, the political side of the Republican movement that coincided with the armed struggle. Commemorations, the people that have died in the area, people that have give their lives for the Republican struggle. Right here, going back as far as 1920, it's just a memorial to some people that were, murdered 100 years ago. And then a lot of the other ones are throughout the next 100 years. One in particular here is Patrick Rooney. The area you're in now, the Divis flats are gone, but this whole area used to be a big complex of flats, apartment complexes, so to speak, but it was supposed to be slums to just throw all the Catholics into, because right behind you, that's where a lot of people were burnt out and were left homeless. For me, it wasn't a slum, it was somewhere I grew up that I loved. But Patrick Rooney, he was 9 years old, and he was murdered by the RUC, who was supposed to be the police force, back in 1969. But you'll get a lot of this all over the Lower Falls, all over the West Belfast entirely. A lot of commemorations, the volunteers that died, the innocent people that were murdered by the British and the RUC, or the Crown Forces. But we'll take a walk down to the Garden of Remembrance, and this garden's in remembrance to a lot of the volunteers that died or were murdered during the Troubles. That's sort of the general area with the D Company, the area where the D Company existed. And then here you've got just monuments and stuff. A lot of the volunteers that died here, some of them during the Falls Curfew, which I had mentioned to you before. So right here, a lot of these plaques are dedicated, some of them are dedicated to the civilians of the Falls Road area. Now, if you look at all these names of the people that have been either killed or have died. There's a lot of names on it. You'll see more of them over here where it's Irish Republican volunteers. It's a very, very small area, and the amount of names you'll see in these plaques will actually blow you away. You know, it's way too much for such a small area, if you know what I mean. But these are dedicated to some of the POWs and volunteers from the area. But like I said, there's a lot of names in the walls for such a little area. This part of Belfast, this part of Ireland is very Irish Republican. But the people here also endured a lot in my lifetime. You know, it was the curfew. There's been a lot of atrocities committed by the British and the police force, the IUC, which is a sectarian police force, who just saw us as their enemy. They didn't see us as people they're supposed to protect. They saw us as people they're supposed to kill, harass. You know. But we'll keep moving. And the people that call revolutionaries terrorists are always the colonialist part, you know, the people that go to other people's lands to kill them and steal their homes, starve them. And then they call the natives terrorists for fighting back. And to me, that's always been, it takes an enormous amount of propaganda to tell somebody that a homeowner is the bad guy and the guy breaking into the home and murdering his family is the good guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's absurd.